Hello everyone, welcome to the part 2 of the Tales of Tenali Raman, retold by Cheryl Rao. Let's get started. Horseplay. Krishnadev Rai once bought some horses from Persia. He gave one each to his courtiers with instructions to feed them and train them well. Tenali Raman was also given a horse to look after. Raman brought the horse home and built a stable for it. The stable was designed in such a way that it had only one small opening in the wall and no doors at all. The small opening was used to feed hay to the horse, and it was the horse's only outlet, which kept it in contact with the outside world. Water was given to the horse through a drain that was dug in one corner. Each day Raman would push a bundle of hay through the opening and the horse would snatch it from his hand. Apart from his single bundle of hay, Tenali Raman fed horse nothing else. After some time, King Krishnadev Rai wished to inspect the horses. Each courtier brought his horse to the palace. All of them had grown beautifully, and King was pleased. Tenali Raman and his horse, however, were nowhere to be seen in the group. The king sent for Raman, and he hastened to the court. Raman explained that his horse had become very stubborn and it was not moving out of its shed. "If your majesty can send some brave man, the horse can be dragged here," he said. King Krishnadev Rai was about to call one of his soldiers, and when Raman interrupted him and asked that a Purohit be sent to do the needful. There was a Purohit named Subha Shastri in the court who was very jealous of Raman. He often tried to humiliate Raman, and now Raman wanted to teach him a lesson. Raman turned to Subha Shastri and said, "Shastriji, you know all about horses. Will you please come with me to my house and bring the horse to the court?" Subhash Shastri straightened his long beard and said, "An intelligent fellow like you cannot drag a mere horse to court. I will show you how to do it." With this boost, he followed Raman home. When he saw the strange type of structure that Raman had built, he exclaimed, "Do you call this a stable? Let me see the horse." Before Raman could protest, Subhash Shastri poked his head through the window. The horse, thinking that its daily quota of hay had arrived, grabbed Subhash Shastri's long beard and would not let go. The Purohit struggled and yelled for help, but the horse held on tightly. Finally, the walls of the stable had to be broken down, and the horse, still with Subhash Shastri's beard in its mouth, was taken to the king. By then, Subhash Shastri had realized that Raman had tried to teach him a lesson for teasing him time and again. The king ordered Tenali Raman to free the Purohit, and Raman asked for a bundle of hay. When the hay was offered to the horse, it released Subhash Shastri's beard and gulped down the food. Raman's horse was in a sorry state. Except for a bundle of hay a day, it had been given no food at all, and it looked very weak. The king rebuked Raman. "What have you done to the horse? Is this the way to look after it?" "Your Majesty," exclaimed Raman, "this horse has caused so much trouble without having sufficient food. What would Shastriji's plight have been if I had fed the horse properly?" Krishnadev Rai was not happy with the disgrace suffered by Subhash Shastri, as he was dragged through the streets by his beard, and he said so. But Shastri came forward and said, "Your Majesty, this is the result of my arrogance with Raman. I often teased him and humiliated him. Today, he has taught me to respect others. I have now learned that education is not enough. Respect for others is also essential." With these words, he bowed to Tenali Raman. Raman bowed in return and apologized for what he had done, while the king and the rest of the court was relieved that everything had ended well. A cat and a mouse game. Krishnadev Rai had imported some Persian cats to control the menace of rats in the kingdom. These cats were distributed among the members of the court. Each one who received a cat was also given a cow to provide the cat with milk. Raman was one of the courtiers who received a cat and a cow. Some months later, king ordered all the cats to be brought to the court. The king and the queen knew of the plight of the horse that had been under the care of Raman, and they expected Raman's cat to be half starved, as had been the case with the horse. To their surprise, Raman's cat had grown fat and sleek. The other cats were also healthy, but none seemed as well fed as Raman's. The king and the queen were happy when they inspected the cats and ordered that they all be offered some milk. All the cats except Raman's cat drank the milk set before them. When Krishnadev Rai saw this, he asked Raman why the cat had not drunk the milk. "Your Majesty," said Raman, This is a peculiar cat. Whenever a bowl of milk is placed in front of it, the cat runs away. You see, on the first day I offered the cat a bowl of boiling milk. The cat closed its eyes and put its mouth to the bowl, and it got burned. Since then, the cat runs away when it sees milk. The king asked, "What did you do with the milk of the cow that was given to you? And what did you feed the cat?" Raman confessed that the cow's milk had been drunk by his children while the cat fed on the rats and small birds in his house and became healthy, and in the process rid the house of vermin. Tenali Raman was thus the only one who had used the cat for the reason for which the animal had been imported, and the king was pleased with him. The cleverest fool. Holi was celebrated with great pomp and show in Vijayanagar. The greatest fool in the kingdom was selected each year and given a valuable reward. Since the title carried so much gold with it, people acted in all kinds of funny ways to contend for the position of the greatest fool. But it was always Tenali Raman who won the prize, making other courtiers very jealous of him. Once, when the festival of Holi approached, the jealous courtiers decided to prevent Raman from attending the functions planned for the day, so that the king would be angry with him and not choose him as the greatest fool. The courtiers brought over one of Raman's servants and instructed him to feed Raman a large dose of bhang. Tenali Raman had the bhang and fell into a drugged sleep. He missed the beginning of the grand function that was being held in the king's court. When he awoke, it was almost noon. He dressed quickly and ran to the court. As Raman entered, the king spotted him and shouted, "You fool, Raman! How could you forget the time of the function?" All jealous courtiers were delighted to see Raman being slighted by the king, but Raman ignored them and said, "Your Majesty, you are right, Your Majesty. I am the greatest fool for forgetting." The king roared, "Yes, you are the greatest fool!" And at once Raman bowed low and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty. You have declared me the biggest fool. Now I deserve the annual award for being the greatest fool." The king's anger evaporated, and he was amused by Raman's ability to make his shortcomings into strengths by using his intelligence. Once again, Raman was awarded the position of the greatest fool and earned a rich prize, to the disgust of the other courtiers whose plans had failed. Raman and the painted peacock. Krishna Dev Rai was very fond of collecting rare objects. Every courtier wanted to impress the king by presenting him with something unique, because in return they hoped to receive a large sum of money from the king. Once a greedy courtier had an idea. He got a painter to paint a peacock red, and then he presented it to the king, claiming that he had found it in the dense forests of the central India. The king had never heard of the existence of red peacocks, but the bird looked so naturally red that he believed courtier and gave him a bag of gold coins. Tenali Raman was present when the red peacock was given to the king. He went close to the peacock as if to study it, and he got a faint smell of paint from it. At once he knew what the courtier had done in order to trick the king into parting with a bag of gold. Raman left the court quietly and went in search of all the good painters in town. One of them confessed to having painted the peacock, and Raman asked him to paint 4 more peacocks red. The following day, Raman reached the court with a painter and the four red peacocks. He announced the king, "Your Majesty, yesterday you received 1 red peacock for 1 bag of gold. Today I have brought you 4 red peacocks and am prepared to give them to you for just 2 bags of gold." The king studied the peacocks, and at last he said, "I agree, Raman. You can have the gold from the treasury." Instead of accepting the gold graciously, Raman said, "Your Majesty, the one who deserves the gold is the painter who painted the peacocks to make them appear naturally red." The greedy courtier's secret was out. He cringed in a corner of the court, knowing that king would punish him for his dishonesty. Krishna Dev Rai rewarded the painter for the skill he had displayed and punished the courtier and made him return the bag of gold. Rest in peace. It was the anniversary of the death of Krishna Dev Rai's mother. The king was depressed. He spoke of his sadness to his Rajguru. "I was not able to fulfill my mother's last wish," he said. "She wanted to have some mangoes before she died, but it was not the mango season, and no amount of gold could buy a mango for her." As soon as the king mentioned the word gold, the Purohit realized that there was a chance for him to get some easy money. He said, "Your Majesty, do not worry. You can fulfill your mother's last wish by giving a gift of a gold mango each to a fellow holy Brahmin. This will allow your mother's soul to rest in peace." Krishnadev Rai had faith in the Purohit's advice and he ordered the preparation of dozens of gold mangoes. He gave these to Brahmins at a long and elaborate ceremony. When Raman heard of this, he decided to teach the greedy Brahmins a lesson. He approached each of the Brahmins who had attended the king's mother's death anniversary prayers and requested them to come to his house to perform various rites for his own mother's death anniversary. "I will give you a suitable reward," he promised. The Brahmins were happy. They knew that Raman was close to the king and often received rich rewards from him. They hoped that he would give them a part of his riches and they happily agreed to visit his house. When the Brahmins arrived, Raman brought them in and closed all the doors of the house and requested that they wait. He placed some iron rods in a fire and began to heat them. The Brahmins became impatient. They had expected a lavish meal and plenty of gold. Instead, Raman was doing something altogether different. Finally, one of them asked him what he was up to and why he did not hurry up with the lunch and the puja. "I have already started the work," Raman said respectfully. "You see, my mother suffered from arthritis. Before she died, she asked me to get a hot iron rod and place it on her body to relieve her of her pains. But she passed away before I could fulfill this last wish. I spoke of this to a Purohit and he advised me to invite some Brahmins and do it for them, what I intended to do for my mother, in order that her soul may rest in peace. So please wait, sir. When the rods are hot, I will place one on each of you." The Brahmins jumped up and cried, Raman, you are mad. There are no connection between your mother's soul resting in peace and are getting hot irons on our bodies. That Purohit lied to you." "No," replied Raman calmly. "He did not lie. If the souls of king's mother can rest in peace by the Brahmins receiving a gift of gold mangoes, there's no reason why my mother's soul cannot rest in peace by the Brahmins receiving these hot irons on their bodies." The Brahmins understood what Raman was doing and they pleaded with him to accept the golden mangoes given to them by the king in return for their being allowed to return to home unharmed. They brought the gold mangoes and gave them to Raman, but they also complained to the king about what he had done. The king found it very amusing and realized how he had been dubbed by the Rajguru. Would not allow him to forget. But his Rajguru would not allow him to forget how the learned Brahmins had been insulted by Raman. "Ravan deserves to be punished for this," the Rajguru said. And Krishnadev Rai impatiently asked what a fitting punishment would be. "Let him pay for his arrogance with his head," declared the Rajguru. The king believed that Raman could take care of himself, so he ordered his guards to take him away and cut off his head with one sweep of their sword. The other courtiers who were present thought the punishment was too severe, but Raman had already thought of a plan. The guards were decent men, and when Raman asked that his last wish be fulfilled, they agreed. "Let me take a dip in the holy Tungabhadra," he said. The guards allowed him to do so. After a long bath, Raman came out of the water and started to meditate. He saw the guards getting impatient to carry out the king's orders, so he said, "Oh friends, won't you let me have some food after my bath?" The guards felt sorry for him and brought him fruit and tender coconuts. Raman ate to his heart's content, then lay down and slept. After a couple of hours, he woke up and asked in surprise, "My friends, why haven't you cut off my head? Come, I will help you do it. I will enter the river and stand in neck-deep water. When I close my eye and say, 'Jai Kali,' you must cut off my head." The guards agreed to this. They followed Raman into the river and stood on either side of him. They drew out their swords and prepared to strike. Raman closed his eyes and started to say, "Jai Kali." The moment he finished Kali, he dived deep into the water and swam downstream, while the swords of the guards sliced the air instead of Raman's head. "Stand up!" cried the guards. "We must cut off your head." But Raman would have none of it. "Remember, the king's order said," he said, "you're allowed only one sweep of your sword to cut off my head. Since you have failed in that, you have to go back to the king and get his order for another try." The guards took him back to the court. Krishnadev Rai was pleased to see him safe. But he pretended to frown and asked the Rajguru for his advice. "What do you say now, Pandit Raj?" he asked slyly. "Let him be buried up to his neck and be trampled to death by an elephant," said the Pandit Raj. The king was sure that Raman would get himself out of this punishment too, so he ordered the guards to go ahead and do what had been advised. The guards took Raman out of the city, and when they found a suitable place, they began to dig a hole. When the hole was big enough, they made Raman stand on it so so that only his head was above the ground, and then they filled it up with earth. They left him there, unable to move, and went in search of an elephant to trample him. It seemed to Raman that there was no way out of his predicament, but to his good luck, at that moment he saw a washerman passing by carrying a big bundle of clothes. He had a hunchback, which was obviously the result of carrying the huge bundles on his back every day. The washerman was surprised to see Raman buried up to his neck in the sand. "What has happened? Who has buried you here?" he asked. Raman replied, "My friend, I am under treatment. I am also a washerman like you, and my back too was bent due to my heavy work. A doctor advised me to bury myself up to neck in sand, and he told me that after some time my back will get straightened out. That is why I am here, and I am already feeling better. My back seems to be getting to its normal position." The washerman was interested in this novel form of treatment for a hunchback. He asked, "Will you help me cure my hunchback?" "Of course," Raman exclaimed. "Just help me to come out of this hole, and I will help you get in. You will be cured within few hours." So Raman was able to come out of the sand, and his straight back convinced the washerman that the treatment was effective. The washerman got into the hole in the sand, and in Raman's place. Raman promised the washerman that he would deliver the bundle of clothes to the palace, and he walked off with it happily, while the washerman just as happily waited for his back to straighten out as Raman's had. But when he saw the guards leading an elephant towards him, he panicked and began screaming for help. The guards saw that the man in the sand was not Tenali Raman, and they immediately realized that Raman had escaped from them again. They ran to the king to explain what had happened. At the palace, they found Raman with bundle of clothes. The king laughed heartily at Raman's second escape, and turning his Rajguru, he proclaimed, "I think it's God's will that Raman should live and make people laugh." No one dared argue with this statement, and Raman was free again. Tenali Raman in the Mughal court. Tenali Raman in the Mughal court. Stories of Raman's wit had reached the Mughal court in Delhi. When Babur heard about Tenali Raman from his courtiers, he wanted to meet him and sent a messenger to Vijayanagar to invite him to Mughal court. When Babur's messenger reached Vijayanagar, Krishnadev Rai was worried that Mughal emperor had sent him to find a pretext to attack his kingdom. He was relieved to hear that the real reason for the visit, and he ordered Raman to go with the messenger to Delhi and show Mughals his ability. "This is a matter of Vijayanagar's prestige," Raman was told. "You must meet the challenge successfully." Tenali Raman left for the Mughal court, determined not to disappoint the king. But in Delhi, Babur had instructed his courtiers not to laugh at the remarks of Tenali Raman. So despite all Raman's antics, no one even smiled. His efforts to make people laugh were in vain. Raman realized the Mughal courtiers were keeping straight faces deliberately, and he decided to try a different tactic. First, he observed Babur's routine. Every morning, Babur went for a walk with a minister. The minister carried some gold coins in his pocket. At the instruction of the king, the minister would hand out coins to the needy. One morning, Raman disguised himself as an old Muslim laborer with a spade on his shoulder and a mango plant in his hand. He went to the banks of Yamuna where Babur passed daily. When he spotted Babur approaching with the wazir, he began to dig. Babur was surprised to see such an old man planting a mango sapling. He asked him what he was doing. "Your Majesty, I am planting a mango tree," replied the old man.
"Even if the sapling takes root and grows," said Babur, "what will you get from it? Will you enjoy its fruit?"
"I'm not planting the trees for my own enjoyment, Your Majesty," said the old man. "I'm doing it for others. I enjoy the fruits of the trees planted by my father. Now it gives me a great pleasure to plant a tree that will bear fruit long after I'm gone." Babur was impressed by the old man's reply. He gave him a handful of coins and told him to plant some more trees. The old man accepted the coins and said, "My lord, normally people get the fruit out of their labor after many years, but I have received it immediately after planting this tree. This proves that consideration for others brings a rich harvest." Pleased by the old man's words, and gave him some more coins. The old man said, "Thank you once more, my lord. While this tree will bear fruits just once a year, when mature, you have rewarded me twice for merely planting it. You are truly generous." "You are truly generous," For the third time, Babur gave the old man some coins, and then, taking his vizier's advice, he moved ahead. For the minister was afraid that all the coins he carried would be given to the single old man who had embraced the emperor so favourably. The old man followed Babur, calling out, "My lord, take another look at me." He removed his false beard and moustaches and straightened his back. There stood Tenali Raman. Babur burst out laughing. "People were not wrong about you, Tenali Raman. You are as intelligent and wise as reported." The emperor's amusement broke the ban placed on the other courtiers. Raman spent the rest of his time in Mughal court in a happy atmosphere. Raman returned to Vijayanagar, having upheld the honour of his native land. Krishnadev Rai was pleased with him and rewarded him with gold and landed property.